Hi everyone, welcome to another lovely episode of your Pawtential Summit series. And I'm so excited today to talk to this really lovely, vibrant lady, Anne Jones. I actually met Anne over here where I am in North Cyprus. Now currently Anne's not here in North Cyprus. I think she's due back about March, April time. So when it starts to get super sunny, then she's waiting till the sun's actually properly shining. So I met Anne over here, and you know, this place, North Cyprus, is, I mean, not only is it beautiful, but I feel very blessed that I meet so many spiritual people here. There's something magical about this part of Cyprus, which, for those that don't know, is a completely, entirely separate country to EU Cyprus. So it's very non-commercial and it has a lovely peaceful energy, and lots of people like myself and Anne are drawn to be part of this island. And then of course, we're drawn to find each other. So it's a privilege to know Anne and to be able to spend some time with her when she's over here in North Cyprus. And I just absolutely knew that for those of you running any kind of business in the holistic field, she has so many years of experience doing this. And I just can't wait for her to share some really good tips and things that she wants to share and tell us about running our business. So first of all, Anne, hello.
Hi there, Karen. Hi, buddy.
So can you tell us a little bit about what really started you off running a business in what you do? Because some of us can be, we can have this idea or we can have this spiritual way of life, but we don't necessarily turn it into an income stream. So what made you choose to do that?
Sure. Right, straight. I'll explain that to you. But first of all, I just wanted to share with viewers that we actually met through dogs. Dogs, yes. A friend of mine had rescued a dog, and Caroline was looking after it. And I love dogs, and I can't do anything without dogs. So we're drawn together with dogs. So straight away, we do have a pause connection there. So pause for connection. Yes. Fantastic. Yes, so as far as my business is concerned, I started healing about 25 years ago. It might be a bit more than that. I've been saying 25 for quite a long time now. When I lived in Malaysia, and I had a very powerful spiritual awakening by hearing a voice telling me to get started on healing. And it was a very kind of, I wouldn't say bully, but it was a very strong and forceful message to get started on healing. And that immediately kick-started a whole revolutionary way of life for me. At that point, I've been teaching the expat women there how to use computers. That I carried on for a while, but very soon I started to get lots of information coming through, you want to call it, intuition, insights. And what I was getting, I was talking to people about, they said, oh, I'd like to know more about that. So I thought, right, I'm not working full time here. I will set up workshops. So that was really the very kickstart of the business, if you like. In as much as I charged people for it, I replaced my computer courses with my healing courses, and the lady who helped me take in the names and take the money for the computer courses just switched seamlessly over to taking the money and doing the background work for my beginning of my business. That's how I started, and then I started to write books. So in a sense, that was a revenue maker. I also, which I suppose was the real launch of a business per se, is my sense of this was people came to me for healing, and they went away feeling great, but I didn't give them a lot to help them help themselves. And the whole purpose behind having a business was based on products that people could use to keep their energies uplifted and clear and free. So from that came the idea of essential oils. I met a lady who created an amazing range of essential oils that she was selling, and I said to her, well, would you like to get involved with me, and we'll put together some oils with the intention of raising and clearing emotions. So, because that's the basis of most healing that we do, it's the emotional driven, energy driven through emotions. So we could get people to do things for themselves which related to their emotional problems. It was more empowering, because there's one problem with healing. I'm doing it with you, although it's you that does it. You go away feeling that, oh, that lady helped me, rather than I help myself. And nothing better than to help yourself. So the whole business was structured on how I could get people to help themselves. And I also needed to make money to pay my friend who helped me run it. So it was sort of a chicken and egg, but you have to make money to support the other people around you. So that's how I started my business. And I think the biggest problem for healers or therapists of any kind is that it's one thing to hand over a product and take money for it. That's not difficult. You know, a book has a fixed price, a product like essential oil spray has a fixed price, and even the jewelry I've made, which comes from symbols that I use for healing, it's easy enough to put a fixed price on those. Hardest thing of all, and the biggest stumbling block for people I find, is how do you value yourself? And for years I used to, so that's a donation, or I got it free. Started doing it free, then I thought, no, come on, it's my time. And everybody said, well, you should charge, or people don't value it. So I thought, right, okay. I had a donation box. And this is a little lesson for anybody who's listening who finds it difficult to value yourself. A lady used to come to me every week on my clinic. I called it a clinic. And I said, you can put what you want to afford in the box. And she every week she put £1 in the box. She was out of work. She didn't have much money. And I thought, well, fair enough. If that's fair enough. It was a little bit thinking £1, you know, for a whole hour session. But anyway, that was for me to work out. And then she came to me, she said, can you help me manifest money? So I have a real problem with abundance of money. So we spent the whole hour clearing her energies, clearing all her blocks that she had to bringing in money into her life. And 2 weeks later, she came back and she said, I cannot believe it. It worked. It worked. Hey, I've got this money coming in from an unknown relative has left me some money, and I'm fine. I'm going to go on holiday here. I'm going to do that. She was over the moon. I said, well, do you need any healing? She said, yeah. I've got a little bit of a pain. I said, fine. Okay. An hour later, she got up, and as she walked out, she put £1 in the box. And I thought, right, now have you got the lesson, Anne? Have you really got the lesson? So that was my big turning point on realizing that actually I wasn't valuing myself. I wasn't valuing myself, and therefore the girl wasn't valuing me any more than I was allowing myself to be valued, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So because I was accepting £1, she thought Anne's worth £1.
Yeah.
So there's something there. Always make sure that you do put a reasonable price on the work you do, and you can always have concessions. I mean, I have concessions all the time, and I've had people I give freebies to, but I set a price that I feel is commensurate to all the hours I put in. It's not just the hour you do with someone, whatever therapy you do. But I think it goes for all sorts of businesses to value yourself. And if I see people failing business, 9 times out of 10, it's because they don't truly believe in themselves or their product, and they don't put a value right on it. Yeah. So that's how I started. I know you were talking about challenges in business too. You know, we were talking earlier that our lives are full of challenges. It's our love affairs or our lack of love affairs, or not having money, which is obviously a big challenge we often face, health issues, confidence, lack of confidence, and so on. There's always something that's challenging us, and the situations of the people we meet, often our family, are challenging us. But our businesses can be a good source of a good source of lessons, because challenges only come into our lives to teach us something. And 9 times out of 10, we have organized that challenge before we even arrived. It's a part of our plan, our life plan. Oh, I need to learn confidence. I need to learn self-value. I need to let go of guilt. And whatever your life purpose and plan is, these challenges will come to help you learn them. I actually believe that businesses and running a business is probably the most challenging thing you could possibly do, because you're often out of your own control. You're having money and a flow towards you. But I do think that everything that happens in your business has a message for you. And I've done this often. I've gone down dead ends. I think that people will want this type of workshop, for example. I put one on, and then hardly anybody turns up. And I have to say, okay, what's going wrong here? And after I've done it 2 or 3 times, then you have to ask yourself, right, is this a challenge that I have to push through? Or is this a message to say, you're going down the wrong path? And for years, I would push and push and push. And I've got a bit of my driver is to get out there to help people. And anything that seems to be stopping it strikes me as something I've got to push through, which is actually not the right way to go. I wouldn't advise other people to do that. Save yourself the energy. When things keep blocking, ask yourself, now, is this a message to say this is not what people want? Maybe the timing's not right. Or maybe it's not a perfect thing for me to be doing, because often we think we ought to do something when actually it's not what we really want to do. Are we doing it from duty? Are we doing it because we think it's our spiritual path to do it? Or do we think it's a good business idea? Somebody else came up with it, maybe. Just have to rewind, look at yourself carefully and say, what's my body telling me? When I say I'm going to do such and such, and this is my plan, say it out loud. Say it to somebody who will be receptive, maybe. Don't say it to a cynic. Don't say it to somebody who doesn't really support you. And just say it out loud and see how it comes across. And if it comes across strong and your heart feels good and you get a little nice woozy feeling, then you know that that's the right thing to do, and you just got to find a good way of putting it out there. Or maybe you get a little worm in the stomach, in your solar plexus, which is I always feel is my message for my body saying, this isn't good for you. This person you're working with isn't right for you. This place where you're working doesn't work, energy doesn't work for you. Listen to the body. I'm going to let you speak now, Caroline. I've said an awful lot there.
Well, I think you're very right with that. To really listen to what is congruent for us. What I remember somebody said to me, use the sentence, does this bring me closer to my purpose? Does this bring me closer to my heart? Because the mind can sometimes take over, and you can be so sure and so attached to this idea you've had that you maybe don't see that it isn't in your best alignment to be doing that. And it may be, like you said, a business idea that you've had with someone else, and it's better for that person perhaps to do that. But it's, yeah, what's right for you in your heart and what excites you as well, because when you're excited about something, then you give out the energy, and then you can receive back.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has to be your passion. It has to be. And do check the should do's and ought to's, because that they are not necessarily on the taking you on the right path. We should, I think I should do this, or I ought to do this. The other thing to check is, this is an interesting one when it comes to things like writing books and setting off new projects. Maybe you've decided to do a blog. Maybe you've decided to set up a website. Maybe you've even started the idea of having a book. It's very easy to get distracted, and there's only one way I can work, because those things always make you feel a bit nervous. And the reason is they're creative issues. And when you're doing anything creative, there's no fixed 100% right way to do things. So you haven't got a strong point of reference to say this is right or this is wrong. So when you're going off with faith to start these creative routes and paths and projects, and it's therefore going to be even more nerve-wracking and stressful in some ways, because you can't say, I'm going to build this, I'm going to make a mug, and the mug has to be able to fill with water or tea and have a handle on it. Then it's done, and that's fine, and everybody's happy with that. But when it comes to other things like books, workshops, therapies, new ideas, in all sorts of things like that, you're very much relying on your own creative source. So it's easy to get distracted. It's very easy to think the most important thing this morning is to clean my house from top to bottom. Much easier to do that than it is to sit down and make this website or this book. What I find the best way to handle this is, and I'm going to talk specifically about, say, writing a book, is the same thing would apply for a blog or a website or anything creative, is to set yourself a contract. Write a contract. So you literally type it up and print it off and sign it. I and Jones commit to completing this project, book, whatever it is, by a set date. And that's like bang, and make sure it's reasonably realistic. You know, you don't want something that believe we've got to be up all night. But I will be prepared when I have a contract like that. I will sit up all night if I really have to make sure that I meet my contract. And in it as well, I've got 6 books published. I've got 4 more in the pipeline, 3 novels and a trilogy and another book, and they're all going through edit stage at the moment. And even the editing, I to say, right, I've got a piece of paper over there, which is my contract, where it tells me I've got to get this edit finished by the end of the month. And that works for me, because then I've got a bit of a deadline. Otherwise, I've got friends I've got one in particular, 6 years she's been writing her book. I've got other friends where the book's been 3/4 written and then put to one side because life's taken over. If you think it's of value and you want to write it, make sure you get it finished. It's easy to make excuses because you're scared that people aren't going to like it, scared that nobody's going to think it's any good. It is easy to sidetrack, but that's one of the most important things I do. And also then have a schedule, and you can have this schedule for any sort of work, which is especially in development stage. It's to say, right, you know, the first 2 hours of every day, well, first hour, walk your dog, put the dog first in that. Then you've got 2 hours to do your development work. Put it in the diary and make sure you stick to it. And all writers say it's the only way to do it. You can't say, oh, I'm feeling the mood today, because you know what, you know, it's too easy to you may find some days that you feel so against it and the sun is shining and you think, and I'm going to go out, but I will make that time up and then reschedule the time. It's really important. So the other thing I do is with all the writing and all creative work, it's a bit like painting as well, and any other creative thing you do, development of a workshop or development of a therapy or development of your business, you know, is just to sit down and just let it flow. All the ideas, you know, what's your objective with this business? Who's your customer base going to be? What's the most important facet of this product that you want it to do? And I've just got a huge bumblebee whizzing around outside. Huge, is that big? I'm just thinking he must have a message for me. And write, and or on the computer, whatever suits you, on your iPad, just dump all your ideas down. Don't sit and think, oh, should I do this before that? Or, you know, do I have to get this sorted before I get that sorted? No, just development plans come from your higher self, not from the logic of your mind. The logic of your mind can go in afterwards, fill in the gaps,
Yes.
Dot the I's, cross the T's, but the insight and the driving force of what you're doing should be allowed to come straight through. And you can use all sorts of things to set that off. You might want to burn some oils, put a spray around, do a little meditation. I use my hands together and put them above my head as a sort of symbolic way of saying I'm connecting to my higher force. And tap your heart, because your heart connects to your higher self. So it has to come from your heart. That's your link, is your heart. Your higher self. So connecting to your heart or connecting above, just set that intention. And then, you know, nothing, I always say, no train leaves the station unless there is an intention of a destination. And at any stage in your business and wherever you are, so important to lay down and set clear your intentions of what you want to achieve. I find it quite helpful to write it down. You could share it with a friend. You could say it out loud, but one step out from the thought. The thought is one thing, but putting it out there in a stronger force helps your whole motivation and energy force to move forward. So setting intention is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Do it like a little ritual, if you like.
Yes, or some kind of ceremony. Yeah, I mean, it is. Even if it's not spiritually minded, even if it's not what you might call woo-woo type stuff, just making the time to sit and be really clear about what it is that you would like to achieve is important. And I know I wrote, when I get my first book from me onto the computer, I'd been thinking about it for so long. It was almost like it was all forming for at least a couple of years, and then all of a sudden it was just like brain dumping or heart dumping for some of it, because it was coming from the heart, and it all just came out, and I was like, whoa. And then I was having to go back and make sure that bits that I'd written were actually okay, and you know, I had a holistic vet look it over to make sure that things in it were as they should be. And I thought, whoa, this is like, where's this come from? It's just come from somewhere. Whereas with the second one that I wrote, that was more methodical, and I actually found it easier to break it down into chapters and then to do each chapter. And I didn't write them all like in the order I was going to have them in the book even. I just wrote the one that I wanted to write that day. And what really pushed me to get the second one finished was the support of my sister. She came over and she had an MA in English, and she said, right, I'm going to come and live with you, and I'm going to edit your book, and I'm only going to be there for like 2
Wow.
you've got to do it in that time, you know. So it was like that. But like you said, it's sometimes you can get caught up in the fear that you don't realize it's a fear that nobody wants it because it's subconscious, but you get caught up in that fear that perhaps people won't want the book. But having that support from my sister really made me like, okay, I'm going to do this anyway, you know, whether it sells or not, I want to get this out there.
Oh, that's important. That's so important. If you worry about how it's going to be received all the time, you never get there. Let the publishers or the public themselves choose that. You just don't know what people are going to really want, and you do the best you can and make sure you speak it in a language that they'll understand, or you pick somebody you know and direct the language to the person in your mind. I've got my sister-in-law who I just always think of her when I'm writing. Will she understand this? Will this make sense to her? Will this be something that relates into her life? I always think it's awfully important when you're writing to put plenty of stories in and case studies and things like that, and relevant to people's lives. And you know, as you say, whatever you're doing in life, being in that quiet, calm moment when you make your decisions and do your planning is important. Making that connection is really important. It doesn't have to just be writing a book, but there's a lot of books out there that have never actually hit paper or even hit anybody's screen, and that's a terrible shame. Although I do sometimes think that we write some books for ourselves. Mm-hmm. I know I've had people give me their book and it's their life story, and I think this is interesting, but probably not for anybody outside of the family. I wouldn't say that. But the point is, I've seen a person transform themselves through writing their book. It's a cathartic process. It's an expression of the things that probably have never been expressed before. So if you have this urge to share your experiences, just do it anyway. Don't worry about whether you're going to sell millions, even if it's only your friends that read it, or even if nobody reads it but yourself. As long as you're happy with that, then that's also fine.
Yes.
It's just writing and expressing things is really important. As always, expression is. I mean, I've been running my business for such a long time, and I've got girlfriends who do run their businesses, and you mentioned about your sister's support. It's just something really, really special about having a friend or a family member who you really care for. Okay, yeah, girls are very, very good at supporting each other, and they will do it without fear of being judged. So if I've got a problem, I ring up a girlfriend and say, look, I'm really struggling at the moment. What's your view on this? Give me a lift up, or just go and have a coffee or a drink somewhere, or have lunch together, or something that will just shift the energy. And we all support each other tremendously. And I think that's really important. It's interesting though, I was thinking, at the moment I'm in a very sad place because I haven't got any dogs. My dogs have both died. Really broke my heart. And but those, every time I went and sat in my house to do my work, they would come with me and they sit with me, and I think that's again another great form of support that we don't underestimate. The power of our dogs to just bring a lovely peaceful energy with them. I mean, sometimes they can be highly active and hyper, but when a dog's quiet, there's nothing quite as peaceful as a quiet dog sleeping at your feet and making you feel calm and good. Yeah, so any support you can get, direction, get it. when whatever sort of business you run, I think that's really important. And I think it's really important that whatever you do, you make sure it's something that you love to do, you truly, truly love to do. A few years ago, I was doing an awful lot of work which involved heavy energies, and I decided to do this work for people all over the world, and I was getting messages in and requests daily. I would get 10 requests every day at least, and that was fine, but I was also have other things going on in my life, of course, and I used to wake up in the morning and there was this pile waiting for me, and in the end it was getting to be although I like doing the work, this was becoming a chore, if I'm really honest. But I was feeling all the time, but you should do this, you can do this, you can clear these people's bad stuff, and this is stuff that's not generally done by Western women, so therefore you perhaps you need to do it. So, and I kept doing it, and then I was visiting Northern Cyprus, the last day of my holiday there, and I fell and I broke my ankle, dislocated it, broke it in 3 places. And I'll never forget, I had amazing support, and a wonderful doctor. I was back at the villa where we live, overlooking the sea, and of course we couldn't fly, so our holiday was extended. My husband and I sat out on the back patio. I'll never forget it. The sun was going down, and we do get the most amazing sunsets in Northern Cyprus, I tell you. I'm not trying to sell Northern Cyprus, but it is an amazing place. And we're watching the sun go down, and there was a bird singing, and we don't get a lot of bird song, not where we are. We're on the side of a mountain. It's shrub and olive trees and not a lot of songbirds, not like a English garden. And this bird sang beautifully, and I looked at my husband. We both had tears in our eyes, and it was such some special moment. And I just sat there and I quietly asked, why have I broken my ankle? And it came back so clearly. You have to change direction. You're taking on things you don't need to take on anymore. Stop. And then that gave me some ideas of what I needed to do. And it was just so clear. But it was the first time I probably actually stopped still and really taken stock of what was going on in my life. And it took me have to be, fall over and break an ankle to do it. I would advise you just to spend at least 5 minutes every week and sit down and say, is this right? Is this okay? Is this good for me? As you said earlier, does this make my heart sing? Is this what I really want to do? Is this my passion? Or am I doing it for some other reason? I know there's always money. You've got to do things for money. But is there another way I can make money that would be better for me than this? You keep asking yourself that. Because what might suit you for a couple of years might be totally out of sync after that. You might find it something you need to move on to something else. So really, really important to keep asking yourself, is this really good for me? Does it serve me? Does it lift me up, or does it pull me down? Does it become a chore, or is it something that makes me wake up in the morning and think, yeah, here I go? And of course, every job has its times. So there's always going to be times where I have to just get through this because it's a heavy time of the year, work-wise. My girlfriend has a hugely busy time just before Christmas. She sells essential oils, and before Christmas she works like crazy. But at least she knows that come January she'll unwind. It's important, really important, to make sure you're doing what you love.
So I'm wondering also if you might share a little bit about publishing and how people might consider if they need to publish their book, if they need to self-publish, or they might want to, or what are ways that people might start?
Okay, well, when I very first started, this was a few years ago, first of all, I used the workshops that I gave as the sort of basis for my notes. So I tested out the material, and I've always done that. Everything I write is something I've already taught, because there's quite a big benefit in that. So before you start to write, maybe you give talks or you share what you're going to write about first, because then you get feedback, and the feedback can often come with case studies and just to see what you're doing, how it affects other people, so you can then put that into your book. And I always, this is the sort of box I use. This is Charlie Masters' book 3, which is the third book. So when I come to write it, there's quite a lot of material in there already. So that's your preparation. And once you've written your book, you need these days to get it well and truly edited. Once upon a time, publishers did a lot of that themselves, but these days, if whether you're going route of self-publishing or getting a publisher, you need to get it edited. You can do a lot of it yourself. There's a lot of software available for editing, and something I just discovered, a girlfriend told me, there's on Word, there's a voice speaking feature. So what I do now when I'm editing, I have my book up on the screen. I put the speak feature on, and I'm reading as I'm listening, and it's amazing how much I pick up that way, because once it goes into voice, you're picking up the sense of what you've written, but your eyes are picking up how you've written it. And there's something about that combination that picks up missing commas, quote marks, and even long sentences that are too long, because the rounds go woo, woo, woo. I mean, it's a bit of a mechanical voice, but it is a real voice. And when he's going on and on and on and on, you realise, oh, hang on, I've got to shorten that and make that 2 sentences. So that's a tip that I will pass on to you. Then when it actually comes to the publishing itself, I've done all sorts. I've done the going down the route of publishers. I've had 6 books published. I had an agent, and an agent got me the first publisher. Well, actually, the very, very first publisher I got went bankrupt, and my book got seized as an asset. Yeah, and got put into an accountant's vault as an asset, which was a bit upsetting. So I had a whole year where that book just didn't go anywhere, and then a year later it came out, and my agent took it to Pawcrastination, and they took it, and from then on I had 6 books published with them. Then I had a long break of doing novels and writing, and then I've done some different sorts of things, and I've actually come up now with a series of them. I'll just show you a little book that I've published myself, which this is a great way to publish yourself, is do it through something small like this. This book, yes, I've self-published because I wanted to hand them out at workshops, and you know, they're low value, but they're low value in the cost, but they're all about how to protect yourself in this case, and the other one's about the symbols and healing. I use Smashwords for this. Now, Smashwords, you can look this up on the internet, are great. They give you a template that you can drop your writing into, and they will publish it on an ebook form, and they have a library. So if I want someone to buy my book in the ebook form, I just direct them to Smashwords. But since this has happened, Amazon do a fantastic service where they give you a template, you drop your words, your word-based document into their template, and then they will print on a demand. So you don't have the cost of going to less than 500. They cost too much to print to make it worthwhile. And this is always the dilemma. How many do you get printed? Do you end up with a stock?
Yes, a garage full of books or something. Yeah.
So with Amazon, your bandwidth's gone a bit low at the moment, but we'll press on. the good thing with Amazon is that they will do this print on demand basis, so that when people order a book, they print one off and send it, or they send them to you. So there's becoming more and more popular to publish your books that way. What are the pluses and minuses for going through an agent and going through? You can't hardly ever get to a publishing house these days directly. You virtually always have to go through an agent.
Okay.
They say agents only, no direct submissions. So you find yourself an agent, and that's a task in itself. There's a huge book that's printed every year, which I can't remember the name of it for the moment, but it's the guide to all the agents, publishing houses. I think it's pretty much in the English-speaking world. That's one way, and of course you can Google now. You can Google the type of books writing, the type of book you're writing, and the type of publishers that have already been proven to publish those. So that's otherwise you're going to be like a scattergun approach, and it'll take too long. And find the agents that work with the sort of work that you do. That's important. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I won't deny it's really, really hard these days to get a publisher, one of the big publishing houses. What they're looking for isn't just a good book. They want either you've got to be famous, so they've got pretty much good knowledge they're going to sell a load. So if your name's Victoria Beckham, you're all right. But if not, they're looking for a large fan base. You've got to have big social media support, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They want to see all that. You have to write all that down. I do a lot of YouTube, so that always goes down very well. I've got over 100 YouTubes. And that's a publishing house. And for first novels and first books, hard. But if you're publishing a non-fiction, you might just as easily do it yourself. And because people will Google for the type of thing you're doing. And these days, most people buy from Amazon anyway. So if they were looking for a book on cross-stitch, they would Google books on cross-stitch, and that would come your book. So then you've got a chance to sell from the way your book looks, the blurb on it, and that's all important. And any reviews you manage to get, which is also useful. So don't be disheartened about the whole publishing thing. If it's non-fiction, it's sometimes even better to go self-published, because you can use your contacts and the contacts of your contacts. You can put excerpts of your book out because it's yours, you own it, so you can put excerpts out there. You do videos of yourself reading the book. You get yourself out there with all the similar magazines, online magazines, and send them little reviews of your book, so that, you know, if there's a bit of space, they'll pop it in. You have to do a lot of marketing yourself. Give talks wherever you can, take your books everywhere, make yourself a nuisance. My book again. But you have to do that, whether you publish with a publishing house or whether you do it yourself anyway. So you might as well think about doing it, publishing yourself. I think the Amazon route's probably the best one. There's others, but to me that's good. And Amazon will often put you on the American. I'm on the American sites and the UK sites. Book tours. Well, what I tend to do is I tend to do workshops and talks based on my book. There's always people who are happy to have a speaker to come, whether it's the local WI or the meditation groups, or we've got positive living groups all around in England, and they're looking for people to give talks. So, you can take your books to one of those. We'll just do it as many as you can, really. what else is there to say about publishing books? Always think if you give them bad news about, you know, this food's bad for you. Say you're in the food business. This food's bad for you. Always give them an answer. Any problem you throw up in a book, always give a solution. It means a different thing altogether. But for non-fiction, always make sure that you get into the head of the person who's reading it. You know, you've just said, you know, climate change is doing this, and then you think, oh, lucky. Then, but guess what you can do? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, and so you have to give people solutions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Make it easy for them. Yeah, and don't let them think they're being judged. Quite often you pick up books and it's like, I'm being told off right from day one, you know, first page. I should be doing this and I shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I'm not interested in being lectured. I want to learn something, you know.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So be careful. You read books like that, don't you?
I think that's really key for books and any other reading material, really, even if it's blogs or your website, you know, to make people feel a bit more upbeat when they are involved in the page and the experience they have actually even just being on your website, you know, rather than saying there are problems, it's these are some of the solutions as well.
Yes, definitely. We want to be, God, it's tough out there at the moment. We want to give people as much help as we possibly can. And that's one of the reasons we're here, isn't it? To help people and lift them up, not to sort of doom and gloom them. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. I think that one thing I did mention editing. I'll just go back to that again. The worst thing about self-published books is when you see typos and mistakes. It's worth paying someone to do a good proofread. I mean, you were lucky you got your sister to come and edit for you, but find a good, if necessary, get 3 people to proofread it, and use that trick of the spoken word. I'm finding that really helpful. Yeah.
Actually, that was a real lesson for my first book, actually, because I did have it edited, but it obviously wasn't by somebody or 3 people. Like, it was just by one person, and they did miss a few things. And the other thing I'll just add as well, which I find interesting, I didn't look enough at really the small print behind the pricing on Amazon, because at the time when I published there and it went through CreateSpace and Kindle, they have like price bands which I wasn't aware of, and so both my books, despite the fact that both books have different, each book has a different price, I still get the same revenue. So the higher price book, it makes no difference on my revenue because they fall within a price band. And I didn't know that. But once you've applied for that to be the price of the book on Amazon, then they tend to reduce it at first when you put your book up. And then they will put it back up to the price that you'd applied for it to be, and that's how it has to stay. So yeah, it's worth sort of having a read of their terms and conditions as well.
So both of your books are on Amazon. That's how you've done both of yours?
Yeah.
And did you have a good experience with that?
Yeah, do you know, I liked CreateSpace. I found it a very, very easy to log in and out of and to upload things to, and I have yet to experience Kindle because I used CreateSpace, so I don't know what the Kindle will be like.
Yes, there's 2 different levels of Kindle, the Kindle version, and they still bring you into a physical book if you want it, but I was reading the sort of like Kindle Superior some such title to it. And there are some snags to that. I can't remember what they were because I didn't decide to go that route yet. But yeah, I think reading the small print is important. And I think they will also give you editors through Amazon, but whether they are good value or not, I couldn't say. I haven't had experience of that. Maybe you know. One of the things is that when you do a book through something like Create Space or any of these books where they're held and only printed when you need them, you can usually go in and make changes. So if you do get someone write to you and say, oh, but do you know that's scientifically not true? And have you checked this? And you go and look and go, oh my God, I made a mistake there. You can actually go in and change it. And you can change typos, which I think is a thing because, you know, it's just the biggest downfall, in my view, of people self-publishing is we're so used to good quality with our published books that when we read something that's not, they either don't get their widows right, you know, you get a bit of a line on the top of a page, and these are the little glitches that make your book look amateurish, which you don't want. Yeah. So if you get somebody who really knows what they're doing to go through it and check it for you, and also you can update it afterwards. It's just good. It's good. I mean, good for you if you can get a big publishing house. Get in with somebody like Random House or Hay House. Fantastic. Yeah. But you don't get so much money. You don't get so much money from them. You only get, I think, 10%. I mean, I get 10% for most of mine, and then they drop the price, and you know, still, you're unlikely to make your fortune with your books, but it does give you stature and status, and anything else in your business that you're doing will have more have a good point of reference, and it will give you as I say, status if you've got a published book. There's no doubt about it. A girlfriend of mine went on an entrepreneurial workshop that lasted a year, how to get a business off the ground. And the first thing they said to everybody, you have to write a book. It's whether you make money out of it or not doesn't matter, but that's your book, and people will look to you as somebody with authority if you've written a book about your subject, whatever the business is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's good for business.
Yes. Yeah.
And going back to businesses, it's not, I mean, I've made mistakes, and one of the mistakes that I've made is one of the things that my husband, who is a businessman, says it's classic: spread yourself too thin. Don't try to sell your products in too many places at once, because then you've got a supply chain difficulties. Excuse me. You know, don't put stock too many places on a sale or return, because you'll find that they just sit there, and then you've got to pay more money out. Make sure you've got enough money to get yourself started. Don't overestimate your sales, because the first party or first launch you have, everybody will buy, all your friends will be there, you get to support. You think, wow, put in a big order for a restock, and then the figures will go like that. Always expect conservatively what you're going to sell, and try to work it that you can get replenishment quickly. But I mean, that's if you're selling products. Most businesses around product of some kind. Yeah. So, and I think the other thing I would just say, just always hold this in mind about going back to what I started with about valuing yourself. It is not a spiritual mores. It is not a spiritual rule that you need to be impoverished or in a state of lack. Those days are long gone. Those days of a spiritual follower or a person on their spiritual path had to go into sackcloth and ashes and live in poverty. That is not the case anymore. We're in the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius does not require us to sacrifice for our spiritual beliefs. And you, even if you're a teacher or a leader of spirituality, you do not need to live in poverty. There's nothing spiritual about being in lack. Just remember that, because it's a mistake that a lot of people think, oh, I'm a healer, I can't charge, or I've got to live in poverty. No, think abundance, because what you think out, what comes back. That's the law of attraction, and it's an absolute law that the energies that you send out are matched, because that's a like meeting like. So if you're sending out, I'm no good, I'm of no value, I'm worthless, I don't deserve this, then guess what? That's what you'll get back. Nothing. If you think I am worth something, you don't have to mouth it off, but you think, oh yeah, what I've got is unique, and what I am is unique, because it is. And this is my offering to the world, and it comes with love. That's a fabulous vibration. And that will bring back what you want. Fear is a negative vibration. So whatever you do, you have to work on fears, because otherwise everything you do is tinged with fear, which means the energies drop and it won't bring back that lovely level of abundance.
It's so true. I think it's very true. I think we might end on that, because also my audio is going a bit crackly for some reason. I
think we've had a good hour. Thanks very much to the Wi-Fi and Carolina, and down in the forest here. I mean, the forest in England, and we don't get the greatest Wi-Fi either. Thank you, Caroline. It's been really lovely being on your program.
Thank you. Yes, my program, P-A-W, has to always have a paw in it. So, yeah, and I just want to say thank you for you guys for sticking to the end. I appreciate that maybe there was a few sticky bits, and perhaps the audio hasn't been so wonderful, but I hope that what I take from this as well myself is that it's, for me, I'm so determined to get this kind of information out there, because I know in the dog world, dogs are dear to our heart and are very spiritual animals with us, very connected with our passion and purpose. And they want us to do well, but we can sometimes very easily feel undervalued when we're within the dog world. So, and we sometimes look to those dogs, and we haven't necessarily always looked out to people so much. So we're in this dog world, in this dog field of working. It can be very easy to just prefer to hide in with your dogs than to get out and do your thing. So despite the problems, I was determined to make Pawtential work for you guys.